I'm very concerned about this broken bill. I don't even know, as a legislator, we all understand around the table what's at stake here, but it's really disconcerting for the second time since we started doing this bill. We're receiving these massive packages of information that completely changed the bill in front of us by the minister. And I'm saying, Minister, why did you screw up so badly? And where the heck was your department for years? Where were you? Last meeting, I asked a number of experts about whether Industry Canada even has the capacity, or the government of Canada has the capacity. One of the first things I raised in Parliament, actually, when I got elected, was I was on the HUMA committee, and it was to review the data systems for human resources, for the Department of Human Resources, because they were not capable, because they were still using a binary code method from the 1970s. I think that's still in effect today. The government of Canada has proven that generally they get a lot of things wrong and they're not up to date in the 21st century. And I am so apprehensive about giving this department any more power with something that most experts are still contemplating about how they're going to get it right. That said, I think despite the minister's incompetence on this, his heart may be partly in the right place, and that he's trying to bring forward amendments and he's trying to do something to fix his own mess. But it is really scary that he's that incompetent that we're just getting thrown this information. So sorry for that rant. But part of me is thinking now, Tony, you and I both come from the Dutch community, and in our culture, it's about being direct, and I know you appreciate that as well. Thank you, my friend. In the first part of the bill, that's true, Dutch people are direct. And Tony's even born in Holland. So in the first part of the bill, we talked a lot about enshrining a fundamental right to privacy for children. And what we got from the minister were 7 areas where he doesn't believe that AI should be used now. I don't see anything in there related to children, and that's kind of concerning. Did any of you follow the debates we've had so far about a fundamental right to privacy for kids? Okay, so Ashley, you're Miss Castlevan, you're shaking your head in response. Yes.
I've heard the debates that have been pursued.
Okay,
yes.
So I don't know. Like, I'm in a position where I might get the Liberal members of this committee may make a decision with the Bloc Québécois to support this going through. I'm not sure where we're going to land on that, and we're openly having this deliberation about whether this part of the bill deserves to go forward. That's where we are right now in good faith. That said, if it does go through, is it worth committee members looking at some of the other amendments that we're going to be putting forward in the first part of the bill, like really enshrining some protections for kids? I am so concerned about the innocent. I have a 10-month-old daughter and a 4-year-old son and an 8-year-old son. I am so concerned about their innocence in the manipulation. And the bill, I will admit, does address psychological harms, but 1 or 2 clauses I don't think is good enough when it relates to a data-driven economy that impacts kids from birth to death in today's day and age. So maybe if you could comment on that a bit.
Sure. Actually, the reason why I included my personal note was because I've heard your line of questioning, and it is something that's concerning, and it's not something that I typically speak to, but it was quite surprising having the experience working in this space, as I mentioned, almost a decade, which is scary, to really think about the evolution of different types of technologies and then therefore the societal impact that they have. And working inside of government, I was also nodding my head when you were mentioning some of the challenges that exist internally. I saw them up close and personal, and definitely, like all organizations, have concerns when we're using old technologies to try and fix modern solutions. That said, the reality is that it does take a significant amount of time. So from a children's perspective, the fact that I had kids recently just completely opened my aperture in terms of the harms, and it made it more real and visceral than I could have ever imagined. Everything was abstract before. So I not only think that that should be included, I do think that when we see potential new classes that get added into these amendments of high impact systems, it would be nice to see something related to protection of youth, similar to what we're seeing south of the border in the U.S.
Okay, so Mr. Shi mentioned in his comments earlier that the relationship between AI generative models and child labor. If we had, say, a clause in the AI portion of the bill that excluded any data that was created by children in third world countries, would that do? What impact would that have?
One,
I
it
think
would
that
be.
would have a.
Oh, go ahead, Shi.
Oh, I was actually
I-
asking Ms. Castlevan.
Yeah, I think that it would be not only nice to see, I think that one of the challenges, though, with all of these systems is that they're trained on data. I know you've talked about this lots on this committee, so I won't regurgitate it too much. However, what's important to know is that often the supply chain is not transparent. So knowing where that data comes from is quite difficult. So to know that it comes from or was collected by children, I think you're needing to solve a more fundamental problem of transparency in the supply chain of data collection practices, which I think should be addressed in deeper concern in this bill as well.
Mr. Chair, do I have
Thank
any
you,
time?
Mr. Viz. That's all the time. I'll just allow if Mr. Shi, you had something to add to this.
Yeah, just to add that it is common practice within the AI development world to actually detail instructions for both data collection, data annotation, and by including any reference to child or forced labor, that would have a tremendous impact in making sure that that would be eradicated, given that it would be something that would be included specifically in the instructions given to companies who are operating around the world.